And now, after that, he worked at Oceanology Institute at Cuba, simulating different environmental processes in oceanography. And now he's a postdoc here at IMPA, and both advised by Professor Marchesin.
Well, good afternoon. First of all, I want to say that I am grateful with the organizer of these events to have the opportunity to stay here at IMPA and this wonderful place that I like. Well, today I speak about the two methods to recover the density distributions of activated carbon samples. This work is together Nadi and Sarah from the Universities Antilles and Guyana, a region of Guadeloupe in France. It is a small island that stays close to Cuba. There is too many problems related with the absorption of gas in porous medium. It's well known that the texture of the soils has immediately influence in the permeability and the capability to leave particles in the medium. So it's necessary the characterization of the textural of the porous surface. Also, it is very important when you obtain new carbon activated materials, it's important to the characterization, to texture of the materials, such as we got to say how many particles is retained for the medium. Carbon activate is produced in Guadeloupe also to obtain supercapacitors. That is a good medium to capacitor because the carbon activate has high conductivity and has also less corrosion respect other materials. In all problems, some I mentioned here, has a common problem. It's the characterization of the surface material, and this determination is possible using the porous side density distribution. This function describes the density of mass or volume respect the porous sides. Once I have the porous side distribution, we can to obtain other parameters of porous medium, like surface area or permeability, etc. To obtain the porous size distribution, it's usually to obtain one experiment when absorption of several gases are used. For example, nitrogen, CO2, but the preferable is nitrogen because the molecular are too smaller respect others. We measure the absorbed quantity respect to pressure, and this is called isotherms. This isotherms is the base to determine the characterization of textural surface of the porous, and we use this measure, experimental measure, to obtain the porous size distribution. In theory, the porous size distribution satisfies this integral equation. This integral equation, in the left, we have the isotherm, measured, for example, in experiments. Inside, we have a kernel. The kernel is a theoretical kernel, satisfies, for example, one simple isotherm for one fixed temperature. This isotherm for micropore have this structure, for example. This is know how Dubini-Astrahov isotherm that is valid in microporic region. And we have another expression for the region of mesoporic region. The kernel is characterized for several parameters of the porous mediums. For example, N is more difficult to select. It represents the heterogeneity of the porous. We have also the limits of the mesoporous radius and, of course, the maximum upper limit of the mesoporous region. P represents the relative pressures. Then we have Freeholm equation of first kind when the unknown solution is our porous side distribution, and we note the isotherm experimental. The last equation defines it's possible to put in operational equation, where the operator is defined in this way, and the unknown porous side distribution is the solution of this operational equation. For example, if we take the kernel as L2, for example, which include most of the practical situation, we have that this operator from L2 to L2 define a compact operator. So its inverse is not continuous. We have then, with this operational equation, and it poses ill problems. Above claims means that we don't have a unique solution, and a small variation in isotherm, which is expected, produce significant change in porous side distribution. This is bad for chemical analysis because you need to obtain one solution that represents the porous medium. Then, how to solve the problems in operational equation? Well, we use the Tikhonov lemma. This lemma states that if we take the restriction of the compact operator to some compact subsets, we have a new map. It's no more operator, it's a map. The resulting map is continuous and has inverse continuous also. This is the way to obtain the possible feasible solution in those compact subsets. The problem then is to find is the compact subset using a priori information of the solution. For example, if we take this compact subset, which is useful for our case, continuous functions, that's uniformly bounded in our compact subset of the porous media, it's the minimum or maximum porous media size, we take a compact subset. This included a more practical, feasible solution of our case. To take more precisely, we take a parameterization of the porous side distribution in this way. This function like the sum of several peaks, where each peak is related with the inflection point in the isotherm curve. Finally, we need also to estimate the parameters alpha, beta, gamma, and also some parameters of the kernel as the heterogeneity surface of porous medium. Then, how is usually you obtain the optimization of this functional that take into account the square of the difference between experimental isotherm and theoric isotherm. We show that these parameters N is obtaining for another method that is similar to obtaining for optimization procedure. Sometimes it's possible to regularize this functional, add some regularizing functional, but in this case was not necessary. In Guadalupe, obtain activate carbon from some marine algae, has like this, turbinaria alga. They obtain a carbon activate from this alga, and he obtained the picture of the surface using the method of high resolution transmission microscopy, and this is the sample of the picture where the black holes represents the porous in the surface. Then I present here another method to obtain the porous distribution from analysis for this image, and compare with the method obtained by optimization. No preferable methods are both methods are complementary. If we take information from this picture, we use in the part of the optimization procedure. To analyze the picture, we use this free software, IMPA-INTERPORE free software, to process, analyze of the picture, has a plugin to particle analysis and obtain the porous size distribution, and plugins also to fractal dimension and lacunarity, which is the idea of the heterogeneity of the medium. The lacunarity is used to estimate the idea from the parameter n in a theoretical kernel. Well, I have for you one example using both methods. One example when it was possible to obtain the isotherm, and also was possible to take pictures of several parts of the simplest uses in the experiment. This is the experimental isotherm. This type of the isotherm means that we obtain the pressure saturation rapidly, which is typical of the micropore region. Then, from the optimization, we obtain this curve, one only peak, because we have only a change of deflection in the isotherm, which the median size is 1.62, and we obtain, after careful analysis of the surface, of several parts of the surface, we obtain this porous site, that is density of the porous site for a porous. In this case, we study qualitative similar behavior of the curve, and the average is 1.3 point. We obtain a parameter n, is the lacunarity, 1.1, which means that is low value, taking into account that n is vary from 1 to 3. And in the same way, in the imaging analysis, we show low lacunarity value. Well, I show you two robust recovery methods to obtain the porous size distribution from experimental isotherm and analysis of the surface of the picture. Both methods are complementary in the sense that the parameters of the optimization need to close a short interval in the moment of to do the optimization. Okay. Thank you.